Hello, Gemini. Welcome to your July Soul session. I'm Princess India if you're new, and if you're family, welcome back, my friend, and what's not or whatever. So, we're going to be looking at an overall energy as well as a challenge, and then we're going to be getting into a more specific spread for you all. Okay, if my cards would behave for you all for the month of July. Okay, I'm going to take that one. Let me pick these cards for your specific spread. All right, in here. All right, so let's see what is going on. So the overall energy for Gemini for the month of July is the Five of Wands in the reverse. Interesting. And this is challenged by the Nine of Pentacles. That's interesting, Gemini. So what it is looking like, Gemini? There's a need to forgive, bury the hatchet, make amends. You know what I'm saying? In reference to a particular conflict, and this conflict could potentially be with yourself. So there could be unforgiveness for yourself for a situation that you got into, or choices or decisions that you made, or maybe a need to forgive someone else, because I feel that is what is preventing you all from getting to the next level. So what it kind of feels to me overall is like it can be a bit of bitterness or resentment. I don't necessarily feel that you guys would feel it. Okay, my Alexa. I don't necessarily feel like you guys would feel it in transit, like, meaning I don't feel like it's like conscious, like you're consciously walking around knowing like, oh, I don't forgive this person, I'm angry and bitter, towards this person. I don't necessarily feel that. How I feel that this would be coming up is just thinking contemplatively throughout the course of the month of July. It may be like a pervasive feeling that's been continuously coming up, or a particular situation that you keep kind of thinking about, or potentially you even maybe getting triggered by something or someone. But all of that is kind of like signs pointing to this unforgiveness or conflict, or unresolved issue with whoever or whatever. But I feel with this challenge, it's what's challenging about this is seeing the correlation between the two. So how I feel Gemini would recognize this is you'd have to kind of look at your life circumstances. Like, if you've been working really, really hard to get somewhere, but you kind of feel like you can't like get past this glass ceiling, like it feels like you're almost trapped on this particular level, and no matter what it is you do, you can't move up. So I mean, like, if you're at a job and you're doing everything under the sun, but every time there's an opportunity for a promotion, it's like you're just not getting it. But I feel the perception that Gemini would have is like you're at the end of your rope and you've done all that you could possibly do. But the truth of the matter is there is something that you could do that I feel, when we speak in the context of like strenuousness, it would be a lot less work than a lot of the work that you've been putting in. Because I feel this unforgiveness, whether it's towards someone else or the self, and it very well could literally just be with yourself, to be honest with you. I feel that's what's really acting as the glass ceiling or the block, whether that's through fear of, you not taking risks or not putting yourself out there, you not, promoting, you not applying for a job in, another state, whatever the case. It's like this unforgiveness it's almost allowed Gemini to develop a level of distrust, either for other people or for yourself in reference to choosing other people. You know what I mean? So it's because you don't necessarily trust yourself making decisions in totality, or making decisions in this, particular area of life. You don't really fraternize with that area of life. You know what I mean? And that's what's kind of keeping you stuck at like this Nine of Pentacles. You know what I mean? So it kind of puts you in a state of like half-hearted happiness. Like everything it is that you have, you're content with it. It's copacetic. It's cool. You give yourself a pat on the back because you've worked hard to get here, but this is not really where you want to stay. but you can't figure out why it is you can't ever get to the 10 of Pentacles. And I feel the direct thing that's intricately tied to why that blocked the glass ceiling is this lack thereof of forgiveness or resolution, even with yourself or with someone else. And I don't feel like when I say forgiveness for someone else, I don't feel that it's something like, oh, my ex cheated on me and I haven't forgiven them and I'll never forgive them for what they did for me. I don't feel that, because vibrationally to me, that feels very superficial. This is digging a little deeper, speaking more in the context of like what that did to you, right? So if your ex cheating on you, like you were once upon a time a person who believed in love and marriage, and you were all, a romantic type of person who believed in love, right? But this one particular situation happened and you've warded off marriage, love, relationships, all of that. That's more deep seated because now it's altered who you are as a person, right? So say if that same person is wondering why, like, why is it that I meet all of these eligible people, right? And the relationships never work out, or I get ghosted, or we never get past like the first date or the second date. It's like, it's for me to complete the whole story for you. It would be because when you got hurt by that person, right? You became fearful. You shut your heart down. You stopped being emotionally available, right? So you started presenting yourself in like more of a, super work woman, money, success type of energy, right? And the type of person that you would ideally want to be with is like repelled by that presentation, right? So you've morphed yourself into someone that you're not, but you're still seeking the type of person you were seeking prior to, but you're not addressing the fact that you have changed. You know what I mean? I hope and pray that that's making sense. So I'm not saying that this is literally about like a romantical type of thing, but that's the best example I can give for the energy that I'm seeing with the overall energy of explaining why it is that there's like this blockade that's here, right? Now, getting into your more specific spread, your central energy that is representing you all is the Hermit. That is Virgo energy. Your past influence, interesting, that's been coming up all month for everyone. We have the Temperance in the reverse. That is Sagittarius energy. Your hidden influence is the Queen of Wands in the reverse. Your potential outcome is the Strength card. That is Leo energy. You guys have a lot of major arcanas. And what to look out for moving forward, we have the Knight of Cuppies. I mean, if this isn't everything that I just said. So looking at your past influence, Gemini, Temperance, representing the latter part of June, coming into the beginning part of July, we're talking about unbalance and emotional instability. So how I always talk about my Likert scale, you guys are on one side or the other of the Likert scale. So you're kind of doing too much on one particular side. Now, from what it is that I've gathered up to this point, if we were to put this in the contrast of like emotion versus logic, I would say that, and I mean, you guys are an air sign, but I feel like you guys are operating very much in logic, like a lot, to where you're not necessarily acknowledging emotion. But given this Five of Wands in the reverse, I feel there's a reason for that, right? I feel like there's a sense of why Gemini may have avoided this up until this time is because this is a painful topic. This is a painful subject matter. And to know if you resonate with this particular reading, Gemini, this would be something I feel even as you're listening to me now and like kind of putting pieces together of, what it is you've been kind of contemplating on this month. This isn't something that's like small potatoes. You know what I'm saying? It would be like a big epic type of event, and not saying that this is something that transpired recently. You know what I'm saying? Because it wouldn't be enough time. Like this wouldn't be something that happened between June and July, and all of a sudden you've morphed into a totally different person, and then now we're here. No. Like, I feel like this is something that happened a while back. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily have to be as far back as childhood, but it's something that happened a while back. to where there was a shift. Like if we were talking about this Likert scale, it would be a shift from vulnerability to like shame in a sense. So whatever the situation is, Gemini went into it in a state of vulnerability, like very open, very honest, authentic, truthful about, feelings, desires, all of these things. And whatever it is that happened with this, it was painful enough to where it caused you to go to the other side of the Likert scale into shame. You know what I mean? And once we got into that shame, that's when we put up like the walls and the defenses to protect oneself, right? But it's almost like emotionally, no progression or growth has been done in that area. You know what I mean? So it's still kind of being stuck in that same place that you were the day that it happened. You know what I mean? So even though, like with this Nine of Pentacles, even though you've grown leaps and bounds since then, got successful, made money, started a business, whatever it is that you did, even though from the outside looking in, you've completely transformed and had a whole glow up since then, it's like where you are on the inside is still very much in that same place. And all the actions that you're taking in this particular area that this is tied to, all of those actions are being guided by that same pain. So why this resolution, burying the hatchet, or forgiveness, why that's relevant is because the only way that this, facet of you can catch up with the rest of you is if that's actually, kind of put to rest and healed. Now, with this particular Temperance card, I feel what did happen in, between the mid part of April up until now. So did I say April? I meant, maybe that's relevant for someone, Freudian slip. I meant the midpoint of June. So like between the 15th of June up until the 15th of July, I feel there has been like a sense of emotional instability to where you may have been like in the last month more pessimistic, more lethargic, more kind of apathetic, more, snappy, more on nerves edge, you know what I mean? Not, as tolerable as you usually are, just kind of like in a sulky, kind of mood. And I feel with that coming up, it kind of causes you to double down in a sense. So it's going even more to like that logic side. So if we say it again with, the contrast of this, it's going more to that logic side, or even with, the vulnerability, it's going more to that shame side. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if you're having flashbacks or get triggered and it makes you think back to that thing, it's like that shame washes over you all over again. And shame, of course, is an emotion that causes us to hide and shut ourselves down. And I really feel that's what the root of the issue is here. So the reason why you're not able to graduate to that next level, proverbially speaking, is because the shame that's in tune with this thing that needs to be, well, I'm not going to say what needs to be, which would behoove you to resolve, right? That's the thing, that's the ball and chain that's preventing you from moving forward in so many ways. Now we're coming into the Hermit, which is representing where it is that you are, representing you. Where I feel you guys are is like you're in possession of this answer already. You know what I'm saying? Like me telling you this, I'm not telling you anything new, right? It's like the solution to the issue is not external to you, right? It's not that the circumstances need to change or you need another opportunity or that you need to work harder or anything like that. It's more or less one needs to go within with this Hermit to deal with whatever, this is, this conflict, and more or less offer yourself forgiveness for this. It's like facing it. It's almost like facing like your demons in a sense. And that's literally been the theme of all the soul sessions this month. Is everyone's being called, and I can say the same thing for you guys because I've been talking about temperance energy in every single sign, and the Temperance card never came up until now with the last sign. But the thing that I say, like with the Likert scale, that's how we're existing, learning lessons. But if ever you want to, end a particular timeline that you're on, you have to descend, right, down the proverbial 9 circles of hell to face your devil. You know what I'm saying? So it's to face this ugly, uncomfortable, painful thing that we don't want to deal with, right? Because when we're not doing that, we're ping ponging from one side of the Likert scale to the other, but we're descending in order to face this devil, right? So that we can ascend and thus transcend said timeline. We jump to another timeline, which is a whole nother lesson in entirety. With this being in you guys' past influence, it's more or less misunderstanding the lesson. So it's like these emotions are coming up, and as opposed to Gemini having dominion over them, it's like you're allowing them to have dominion over you. But I feel it's just because you're misunderstanding why this is coming up. You know what I mean? Like, why is all of this coming up now? Like, I've been over this. Like, why, is all of this stuff coming up? And it's because it's time for you to face it and acknowledge it. It's not about you completely healing it in totality, because that takes time. And sometimes, getting the help of a friendly local neighborhood therapist, right? It's not about you fixing it and healing it and recovering and having some big giant epiphany from it. It's not about all of that. It's literally coming up because it's time for it to be acknowledged, right? Because you can't move forward until you do. But all of the tools and resources that you need to do so with this hermit are in your possession. Like, you have the get out of jail free card, or, the key to the cell that you're locked in. You're in possession of that, but there's a need to acknowledge it, like to face it. You know what I mean? To really allow yourself to say, like, that really hurt me. And, when I went through that, that did change my perception on life or people or whatever. And no, I don't feel like I have hope in this particular area anymore. You know what I mean? It's like speaking from that true place as opposed to like that defensive place, because in my line of work, I see that a lot of times, like even on YouTube, like when I hear people on YouTube, like going on rants about stuff, it was like a video I saw today. It was like a little short, and the chick was saying something like about dudes. Like she was like, she said something about like, when guys say that we're gonna die alone, do they think that's an insult? That's not an insult, because we don't need y'all for nothing. We don't need y'all for money. We don't need y'all to have kids. She just went on this whole rant, and I was like, oh wow, right? And for me, listening to that, I was just like, homegirl going through a little something, you know what I'm saying? She done been through some things, right? Because I know that's a defense. You know what I'm saying? It's like when we're like cutting stuff off, it's avoidance. You know what I mean? I want to, or a lot of people do this like with rejection, like I'm going to reject you before you reject me type of thing. But I know that comes from like a place of pain in a person's personal experience. It's not, something to judge a person in a negative way by. It's just something that they need to process. And many of you guys who work with me have always hear me say that I'm not ever like terrified by a person's like anger, because I know the height of a person's anger gives me insight into the depth of their pain. You know what I'm saying? There's a deep level of sadness that's there, but it's just anger is a more socially acceptable emotion. You know what I mean? Because an angry person doesn't seem very vulnerable. You know what I mean? But a person who's crying is allowing themselves to be fully vulnerable. You know what I mean? So it's like you're naked, you're exposed. But with anger, it's an emotion that's telling you like, get away from me. Feel unsafe right now. Stay back there so you can't see how much I'm hurt on the inside. You know what I'm saying? So I say that to say that with my Geminis, that's the state that you guys are in. It's like there's an external projection, and I just heard overcompensate. I get it. It's like a lot of the stuff that Gemini is doing externally, it's to compensate for something that you feel is lacking within. And this thing that you feel is lacking within is intricately tied to whatever this 5 of Wands in the reverse is speaking about. You know what I mean? So it's something you experience that caused you to feel a way about yourself in this area. And I mean, it could be something like betrayal. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times if a person screws over us, or like a person scams us or something, people feel a lot of shame with that, and they won't share that with anyone, because it's like, how could I be so stupid? How could I have fell for that? You know what I mean? So we hide that and kind of suffer in silence. But it's the same thing I'm seeing with you guys hidden influence being the Queen of Wands in the reverse, because that's saying to me that there's a lesson here that was intended for you guys to learn that potentially could have been very, transformational for you guys. And not saying that that's still not an opportunity, because it definitely is, but it's more or less not getting the full lesson, and the only takeaway was like the negative side of things. And I feel like in an emotional aspect, that's more or less what was affected. And still, because I know this is wands, but I'm saying this from the feminine aspect. It's like when I say emotions that were affected, and that being like in a, Rubbermaid container, still from the same day that you were hurt, the actions that you're taking are from that place, right? But with it being a queen, there's a level of mastery, and I'll just call it like dysfunctional, right? It's a dysfunctional way that one behaves in this area tied to this emotion, but you've been doing that for so long, you've gotten to a level of mastery with it, right? And the key is kind of reversing that so that this, Queen of Wands can be upright. And we're learning like both sides of the lesson, like the light side as well as the dark side. But I feel as it stands at present, the only thing that Gemini has taken away from this experience is the dark side. And that in a sense has left you kind of, kind of hard, kind of cold, kind of I don't take no shit, you know what I'm saying? And that's not your presentation. Let me clarify that. That's not your presentation all day, every day. It's just in this particular area. So like I was saying with the young lady that I saw on YouTube today, she could be sweet as pie in every facet of her life, but if ever somebody brings up the topic of men, instantly there's a switch, and then, that energy comes out because we don't need y'all, and da 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 da, and that's just so funny because da da da. You know what I'm saying? Or even if you're a person who listens to podcasts, and you ever notice, like on a podcast, like when someone gets triggered, like they're totally speaking very monotone, and when they get triggered, all of a sudden, like the octave in their voice goes up, and it's like, oh, I'm just very passionate about this. And it's like, I feel you. I would feel you if we were talking about anything else but this particular thing that we're talking about now, after that other person said the thing that clearly triggered you. You know what I'm saying? But those are things that we can use as like marker points in our life that show us that this is a place in us that needs healing. You know what I'm saying? Like there's something there that hurt me, because a trigger is tied to a wound. So there's something there that hurt you, and that particular thing needs to be addressed. Like, why is it that I go so hard in the paint when this is talked about? What is it that I've experienced that makes me feel this particular way about this particular thing, right? So I feel that's really what the goal is with this energy that you guys are in with the Hermit and with this hidden influence, because I feel consciously the headspace Gemini is in, like I was saying a few minutes ago, your perception is like, I'm over this. Like, I don't even care about that. Like, that doesn't even affect me. But I feel all these emotions that have been coming up until now has been making it very clear, like it does, and it's okay. You know what I mean? We just need to address it. We need to accept that that's happening, and then make some decisions moving forward of what we need to do in order to process that. Do we need to do some self-forgiveness? Do we need to do a little, 12 session CBT? Do we need to have a conversation with someone? You know what I'm saying? Depending on the situation, I would, err on the side of caution with that. You know what I mean? Because closure and forgiveness, that's really a thing that we're doing for us. You don't necessarily need to involve other people in that, right? Now, with our outcome being the Strength card, I feel like that is an absolute beautiful outcome to have, because what this is really talking about is Gemini stepping back into your power and taming the beast, so to speak. So I feel, if I were to speak a little tarot, the energy that Gemini is coming into July is like in the Strength and the reverse energy. It's like your sensory consciousness, your woundedness, your insecurities, whatever. That's what's kind of ruling the game right now, right? And it's like, your higher self is like trying to kind of jump in and tag in when they can. But for the most part, who's running the whole show is like, your your animalistic side, your sensory side, your human, right, is the one that's running the show, and the higher self is just trying to, jump in when they can. And this is all about turning the tide, right? Because like I said, you guys are already in possession of the wisdom, right? You know your experience, you know what you've been through, you know what hurt you, all of the things, right? So it's all about finally facing this, right? Acknowledging that this hurt me, and like, yeah, so maybe I did become somewhat of a different person. Maybe I now, don't tolerate bullshit from anyone. Since this thing happened, yes, I am a little short with people. You know what I'm saying? And another thing I'll say to you guys too, Gemini, I don't know what it is with the last 3 signs. It was Taurus, Capricorn, and you guys. I know there's a connection with Capricorn and Taurus with them being earth signs. Not really sure what the connection is with you guys, but you guys fit into the whole theme of all of the signs, like the same patterns I've been seeing in the reading. But there's some interesting connection, and my staff literally told me this. I was like, Gemini and Taurus are never in like the bottom 3, you know what I mean? And they were like, oh, that means, something about to pop off with those readings. But me kind of seeing like this pattern that I'm seeing in the reading for you guys, it's reminding me a lot of Capricorn and Taurus. So I'm going to tell you guys the same thing that I told them. I don't know if you have it in your chart. I mean, if you do, then you would watch those anyway. But even if you don't, I really don't feel it would hurt to watch Capricorn and Taurus, because I feel it'll give you different perspectives on what it is that you're dealing with, because I see a lot of similarities. It's almost like if I were to make you guys a triangle, it's like Taurus is the left side of the Likert scale, and like well, yeah, literally, but I'll just do this anyway. But and it's like Capricorn is the right side of the Likert scale, and like Gemini would be like that transcendence point. But it's literally this way, because how I talk about ping ponging and then descending in order to like ascend, this is like the descent point. So, and it's interesting you guys are last, because literally for all 11 signs prior to you, I'm talking about how everyone is at the place where we all need to descend down those proverbial 9 circles of hell to face like our devil. And where I'm seeing Gemini is energetically, you guys are at that center point, and the call is for you to descend. So facing your devil, you know what I'm saying, is literally the hermit is that center point, right? Oh my God, that's crazy. I just got, oh my God, Virgil, like the Divine Comedy, like Dante's Inferno, you know what I mean? And Virgil being like his guide down the 9 circles of hell until he gets to the 9th circle of hell, where he actually sees like the devil. It's like the hermit is literally Virgil. That's crazy. And I was saying, like, you guys are at the center point. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like the descent. And this is literally the character for the descent. Dag nabbit, son of a gun. Oh my gosh. If you have never read the Divine Comedy, shame on you. But at least go on YouTube and see if you could find like a little Cliff Notes version of it or something, because that is like so hella relevant to this whole story. This is crazy. That's so insane. But yeah, dude, that's literally the journey that you guys are on. It's like your devil at the 9th circle of hell is the Queen of Wands in the reverse. You know what I'm saying? But the only way that you're going to be able to transcend this, which is what the Strength card is talking about, like you being in unison with yourself and having control over this beast, right? Having control over your human, you know what I mean? The only way to get there is to face this, because I feel it's this unforgiveness is the only thing that's standing between you and what it is that you truly desire. Now, something I'll say, I want to clarify this Knight of Cups, with it being in the position of what to watch out for, because I think ideally I would want to just say, oh, this is just saying, don't, you're going to get in tune with your emotions. So don't get like, drunk on your own emotions. Right. But I would love to say that. But because of it being and what to watch out for, I want to clarify this. to see if this is a person that you guys need to watch out for, because what I'm picking up with that, I'm not a fan, but let me just, okay, this one's sticking out. I'll take this one. Okay, good. I like that. It is the first version. We have joyfulness. That is wonderful. So what to look out for moving forward, and I'll just throw this in there just as a little side note. So this isn't for everyone, but just because that hit my mind at the same time, the first thing I said did. With the work that would behoove you guys to do this month, if there is anyone from your past, specifically the person that hurt you in the beginning, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't necessarily have to be a romantical partner. It could be anyone. But if this is someone who just kind of like pops up, please be careful with that, which is why I kind of gave the disclaimer of when like doing the work of forgiveness, you don't necessarily need to involve other people, because you have to qualify the people. Because if this is a person who isn't in the headspace of, growth, transformation, and things of the sort, if you try to confront someone who hurt you, with the positive intention of, you forgiving the person, if they're not on the same type of time that you are, they could end up like stunting your progress with them being like, I never did you that. And that was your fault and you bought that on yourself. And I tried this and da 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 da. Or if it's like a parental figure, how dare you with all it is that I've done for you and da 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 da. And that doesn't really get you anywhere. So that's why I stress like qualifying the people. So the thing I'm saying is, because there is this sneaky energy that's going on this month, if this ends up transpiring where you guys listen to this and you're like, yeah, I really do need to forgive this particular person, and somehow this person ends up popping up into your life, be kind of cautious with that. You know what I'm saying? Because this could end up being kind of like a is not is paradigm, to where you're headed in the right direction. This person pops up, and ends up backtracking your progress and pushing you right back to where it is that you started in the beginning of the month, right? But what I was saying, so that's just a little side note, but what I was saying with this, I'm just like, oh, don't get drunk on your own emotions. This is more that literally it's joyfulness, clarifying this. The thing that you guys are really looking out for, and that actually puts both of those together, to be honest, is you're really watching out for anything that can inhibit you guys getting to this point of joy. That's really, to me, what this strength card is speaking about. And what I mean by joy is not just like, oh my gosh, I'm just so blissful. It's like full on contentment. It's full on contentment and acceptance, which is why I say this isn't about you healing this all together. It's like us and all of our fractured parts of ourselves, the unhealed parts of ourselves. I think the biggest thing that we don't understand about self-love and self-acceptance is that we love and accept ourselves in our brokenness, like with our issues, like with our quirks. You know what I'm saying? All of the things with us that are healed and unhealed. Self-love allows us to accept ourselves as is, like loving ourselves as a work in progress. Like you don't need to be a finished product to be enough. You know what I mean? The whole danger to full-on self-acceptance and self-love is self-denial. It's that shame. Like I always say, shame is the most toxic human emotion. You know what I mean? So that those parts of ourselves that we're hiding, it causes us to show up as a fractured version of ourselves. And that's what we're drawing in. So we're drawing in this frequency of this fractured version of ourselves. And we're wondering why things in our life are pieces that don't necessarily fit. And it's because we're hiding these shameful parts of ourselves. What this is about is bringing those shameful parts of yourself to the forefront and still charting forward and not allowing this to make you feel less than. It's like, yeah, I flash out sometimes. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Or, I have a tendency to kind of shut down, when I get upset. Yeah, I do that. Is it something that I want to work on? Yes. Is it something that I'm actively working on? Yes. But this is, my toxic trait. You know what I'm saying? So it's about bringing all of yourself to the table and not feeling as if you need to hide aspects of yourself. You know what I'm saying? And I really feel with this Knight of Cups as well, like I was saying, is not allowing another person to inhibit your progress with this. You know what I'm saying? And another thing I can say too with this as well, is and I still feel like I need to warn you about that though. Because I see this coming in the form of of a message. Child. So this is two different things. Okay. So on one end, that's it's still kind of like the first message though, but it's just not in the sense of like this person coming towards you. That's still relevant, but it's kind of like, because the thing I'm literally seeing this very clear. It's like someone calling you to tell you they're getting married, right? Like a friend. But the wound is related to that. So this is like for a person where if your wound is related to like being alone, you know what I'm saying? And like warding off marriage, like I was saying with the example of the person, right? And you're like, I don't care, I'm good with being alone, being by myself. You know, if I never get married, then I'm okay with that, right? And you know, you're doing this work, you've acknowledged that it's like, yeah, you know, I'm upset because of this thing, da da da. And a friend calling you to say, oh my gosh, like I'm getting married, you know what I mean? And that acting as a trigger. So I'm still seeing that in the same vibration as like literally a person, where I say it's like a person with the whole forgiveness thing, and then this person like pops up, wants to have a conversation. You're, you know, I'm going to start practicing vulnerability. You're all open thinking you can have a conversation with this person, and it shuts you down. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting the same message, but it's different. So as opposed to this person being an asshole, this is a person that has no malicious intention. They're just telling you good news, but it ends up being a trigger. But I feel the solution with this is being consciously aware of it. You know what I'm saying? So it is a bit of a is not is paradigm. And those of you who don't know about the is not is paradigm, it's whenever you're calling something into your life, the polar opposite of what you asked for has to show up first to create a void, because the universe likes to fill voids, right? So it's creating a void for the thing that you're calling in to have a space to fill. But more often than not, people get lost in the is not, totally forgetting what it is that they called in. And it's just like, oh my gosh, everything's going to shit. Like, I hate this job. The next day you get fired and you're like, oh my God, my life is over. And it's like, yeah, you need to get fired from that job so you can get the new job, but you never go to an interview or anything like that because you get lost in the is not. You feel what I'm saying? It's very similar to like a 5 of cups kind of energy, like you're crying over the spilled cups, not realizing there's 2 cups behind you type of deal. You know what I mean? So it's like that, because that's the process of manifestation. So whenever we set an intention to make a change in our life, there's always something that's going to happen immediately after to test your gangster to see like, so do you really want to change? Like you said, you're going to stop like backslapping people, right? So then it's like you make the decision to do that. The next day, somebody comes that's asking to be backslapped, right? But a lot of times we end up falling for it. So I really feel what this is saying, Gemini, is that yes, you guys are coming to a place where what would behoove you is to step back into your vulnerability. But I can tell you realistically, that's going to be a process within itself. It's not going to be something overnight. The only thing that we're asking for this month is acknowledgement and acceptance. Like, yes, this did hurt me. Yes, it did affect me in these particular ways. This is something that I want to work on moving forward. But, you know, until then, this is a part of me and I love him, her, you know, them, whatever. And I'm accepting this facet of myself, right? I'm accepting that these changes were made and I'm accepting this isn't who I really am. And I do want to, you know, kind of morph out of this, right? But this is giving you a heads up and a forewarning of your is not that's coming to test you to see how committed you are to making this change. And for some of you, it's going to come in the form of good news from someone else, right? For others of you, it's going to come in the form of a person that you have unforgiveness for, right? And you may attempt to try to cultivate forgiveness with this person via a conversation, and it may not go the way that you hoped it did. But the thing that's important to take away from this is going back to the drawing board of the work that it is that you're doing. You know what I mean? And just acknowledging what emotions come up with that, but not allowing those emotions to push you back to where it is that we started in the very beginning of this reading. You know what I'm saying? So anywho, I hope and pray that that makes sense, Gemini. I don't know how the last 3 were so doggone long, but y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. Even though my computer did not do the thing with y'all, I'm telling you guys, like, everyone, donate to my GoFundMe. Really? My GoFundMe. I'm trying to get a new laptop because this one sucks. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to get a new laptop so that way, you know, the quality of my videos are better and I'm able to do more stuff because I'm very limited on what I can do with this old laptop that I have. So if you find it in your heart to donate to your friend Princess India to get a new laptop, the link is going to be in the comments description box, and it's on the community tab. Even if it's 50 cents, child, I will be thankful. You know what I'm saying? Gets us to the goal. But anywho, I love your freaking face, Gemini. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you guys sooner than later, my friend.